I'm Christy Hughes. I'm the Director of Development and Administration for Empire Justice Center. I'm responsible for the overall administration of the HOPP grantee contracts for the Attorney General. And I'm also responsible for Empire Justice Center's internal grants and contract management. So I can empathize with the frustration and challenges you are all dealing with reporting to a funder, because we have about 30 plus funders that we report to on a regular basis. So we're coming at it both ways. I'm joined today by Becky Keiko, who's the regional coordinator for our Western region, which is a very large region of the state. And Alex Maricelli, who is our Grants and Communications Coordinator for the HOPP program, who I'm sure you're all very familiar with because she's the person that you deal with mostly on a day-to-day basis. Just some housekeeping items before we get started. Webinar, we have an hour. It didn't take that long this morning for housing counseling, so hopefully we'll have time at the end for any questions that you have. You are all muted right now, but at the end, hopefully with the time allowed, we can go over any questions. But in the meantime, you can type any questions that you have into the question box, and as they come in, we'll try to answer them as we can, or wait to the end and answer them. We also will have a question and answer posted in the HOPP online portal, so that any questions from this morning's webinar for housing counseling agencies and from this webinar will be posted with the answers, so everybody can see what kind of questions were asked and the answers to them. And the webinar is also being taped, and we will hopefully sometime early to mid next week, we'll have the webinar also posted in the online portal so that you can, any staff that wasn't able to attend can go and view the webinar and the questions. So just to reiterate why the Attorney General needs your data, it definitely, I want to assure you, it's being used. Dina from the Attorney General's office, who's in charge of the program, contacts Alex on a regular basis, asking for different data fields and reports, and they are definitely looking at it, analyzing it, as are we, our regional coordinators especially, looking for trends and patterns and practices. And so that they can target some of the approaches that they're taking to the problems across the state. Go ahead. Just a brief overview of the changes to the May reports. We have some new data points. We have county, we've added county, the list pendants filing date, and then the primary, secondary Sandy services, mostly for Long Island grantees. We deleted 2 data points, the HOPP ID and outcome specifics, and then we updated several of the drop-down values, and we'll go over them in more detail as we walk through the manual. So I'll turn it over to Alex, who's going to actually just walk through all of the data points and make some clarifications, and then Becky's here to answer and talk about some of the substantive issues involved with the data points.
Great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're having a great Thursday. We are going to start by walking through just the data manual. So we'll start at the top for data point A1, the client ID. This needs to be the same on every data report because the AG's office wants to see a client's progression in history throughout a case. You will also note under the record information that HOPP ID, as Christy just mentioned, is removed due to a conflict in attorney and client privilege. And then again, the staff that is currently working with a client during that reporting period. Now we're on section B, the client and demographic information. The intake date pertains to the date that your organization initiated contact with your client. And please note that this date will remain the same. The next data point, service date, is the most recent date that the client received services in each reporting period. The next 3 data points for race, ethnicity, and language are pretty self-explanatory, but please note if the client declines to answer, you can simply leave the field blank. Data point B8 through B10 pertains to ask for the number of children, adults, and seniors who reside in the household. And then the income, again, pretty straightforward on the client's current estimated gross household income. For the credit score, if a client does not know their credit score, you can simply leave the field blank. If you can easily obtain the client's credit score, that's great, but don't go to extreme measures to collect them.
As an example, many housing counseling agencies are collecting credit scores from their clients. If you have a partnership or relationship established with those housing counseling agencies, you can feel free to pass that information between agencies and collect it and put it into your data field for that same client. But I don't know of any legal services agency, frankly, that collects credit score, and you shouldn't feel obligated to do so.
Great. Now we're on data point B13 for the household, and please note we have added 2 values, 2 adults with dependents, and 2 or more related adults. For the property information section, the zip code, again, pretty straightforward. And then as mentioned earlier, the county, we've added the field data point for county because some zip codes cross over multiple counties, which makes it difficult to extract accurate data requested by the AG's office. Now to loan information. For the primary and secondary reasons for mortgage distress, we have revised the value for increased and unexpected medical expenses/issues. And we have also added a value for property and tax delinquency. And again, the same goes for the secondary reason for mortgage distress. For the units, just simply the number of units included in the property on that mortgage. And the purchase date, again, pretty straightforward, the month and year that the original property was purchased. The next few data points refer to the loan at origination, so the original loan origination date and the loan origination amount. We are currently on data point B22, the loan term at origination, and please note when reporting this, report the term in years, not months. For loan owner type, we have added 3 new values, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, and private, and we have revised the value residential mortgage-backed security, which was previously RMBS. The next batch of data points refer to the loan at intake, so the total principal on the loan at the time of intake.
So the next data point is D25. We originally had a fixed or an ARM as the interest rate at time of intake. We've found that many folks are walking in the door who have already had a modification, and so these 2 additional values are meant to address that. So you have somebody, for instance, that has a HAMP mod, and they've fallen behind on that HAMP mod. They now need additional assistance. They would be considered modified ARM at intake. A modified fixed, of course, you know what that is, but it's the interest rate is fixed at the time of intake, but it's based upon a fixed rate with a modified loan.
Perfect. So on to the interest rate, again, the interest rate at the time of intake. And when reporting this, make sure to only enter the number and do not include the percentage sign.
Or else Alex has to clean it all up.
Yep. I'd really appreciate it. We're on to data point D27, which is the total monthly payment at time of intake. And then for the interest-only loan, whether or not it had interest-only loan. The loans under the data point for loan status, we have added 2 values, at least 120 days late, and for closed, it's subsequently, we have revised between 90 and 120 days late, which was previously at least 90 days late.
When we talk about foreclosed, we're drawing a line in the sand of the moment that there's a judgment issued against the mortgage. So once the decision has been made, there's a judgment issued. And we know that many folks are walking in the door post-judgment, are still in their home, in the possession of their home, and you're trying to work something out at that stage in the game. So that's meant to capture those folks.
Great.
Although if they're somehow out of the house, sorry, if they're somehow out of the house and you're trying to get them back in, of course they would still be captured into that category. Good luck with that.
Okay, for when reporting for the servicer under D30, please be sure to spell out the complete servicer names and do not use acronyms, because there are a lot of grantees who work with a lot of servicers, and it's very hard to decipher which servicer you're actually referencing.
So D31, I wanted to just emphasize, there's nothing new here. I just wanted to monopolize the moment and emphasize the importance of reporting servicing violations. The Attorney General's office right now is our strongest ally in terms of going after these banks that we all know are not following the NMS on a regular basis. Reviewing some of the reports, those of us who have been advocates for years and know the level of violations, we feel as if we're not getting an accurate description of the level of violations, and we just wanted to emphasize this field, encourage you to fill it out. Well, more than encourage, it's a mandatory field. If you have a violation, you have to report it, and this is the spot that you have to report it. So just coming up with a system to capture that is, of course, difficult, but there's got to be some, we ask you to find a system that works.
Perfect. Okay. So we're on data point D32, which is, again, pretty self-explanatory, whether or not the loan servicer changed since the initial intake date.
And so then D33 is the date of filing the lis pendens. Most of the time a foreclosure, the summons and complaint is filed alongside the lis pendens. On occasion they might be different. Essentially fill in what you know. Ideally fill in the lis pendens date. If all you know is when the foreclosure was filed, when the summons and complaint was filed, you can feel free to use that date instead. But the goal is to figure out approximately when these foreclosures are getting started, legally initiated.
Okay, so for data point D34, the number of settlement conference appearances, please note we have revised the description, so you only need to report the total number of settlement conferences within the reported period. You do not need to accumulate. D35, again, this is the date of the first settlement conference, and then whether or not a bad faith motion was filed.
By anyone, not just the client, by the attorney as well. Of course, most clients are not filing bad faith motions.
Now we're on section E, services provided.
Yeah, the legal services hours, it says in here how many hours did the attorney spend on the client's case. What we're really looking for is how many legal hours have been spent on the case. So if you have support staff or paralegals in your law firm, in your office, working on it, their time counts.
Okay, and just a note, when reporting this, please enter the cumulative number of service hours since the beginning of the grant period. For data points E38 and E39, the primary and secondary type of legal assistance provided, please report the most recent service provided to the client during the reporting period. The next two data points, primary Sandy and secondary Sandy, are obviously related to the Sandy storm, thank you. And this is a new data point primarily for the Long Island region. So contact your regional coordinator with specific questions. And then for the modification request status, please update this field every time the status of the modification request changes. And now we are on client outcomes. For data point F43 and F44, you are not expected to fill in this field until you have achieved one of the milestones or outcomes listed. You may fill in more than one outcome over the life of the representation of a client. However, if you do not have an outcome or milestone during a reporting period, simply leave this field blank. And if you have 2 outcomes for one mortgage, you do not need to prioritize this value. And please note, the column on the left lists the outcomes values, and the column on the right shows the corresponding fields that must be completed. For example, if you select brought mortgage current, you should also be reporting the total delinquent payments, fees, and interest in the benefits field. When reporting the client outcome unknown value, the case must be closed, therefore there must be a date in the case closed field.
So for those of us that want to fill in a field every chance that we can get, go against your gut. So this field is you only use client outcome unknown if you are no longer working with that client and you don't have a client, you don't know what the outcome was. This is not this case is in progress.
Correct.
Answer. Yes.
And just please note here are 4 new values that were added. And just to let you know, these are all ready in the new spreadsheet that was sent out. And the same goes for secondary outcome as well. The next batch of data points relate to the modified mortgage. So the new principal on the modified mortgage, the new term, and again, please report this in years, not months. Data point F47 is the type of modified mortgage, whether it's fixed or ARM. When reporting the new rate, again, please report only the number. Don't include the percentage sign. And then again, this is pretty straightforward, the new total monthly payment. We're on data point F50.
I'm sorry, Alex, yep. I'm so sorry. When folks get a HAMP modification, for instance, and it's a fixed for a couple of years and then it bounces up for a couple of years, we should be considering that an ARM, not a fixed rate term.
Great. Okay, so we are on, just again to reiterate, that F50 refers to the amount of principal forgiveness, and F51 is the amount of forbearance. Data point F52 and F53 refer to the short sale, the price, and the date. Whether or not the mortgage debt was fully forgiven, and the date of the deed in lieu of foreclosure. Data point F56 is the cash benefits description. Oops. Sorry about that. F57 refers to if a client moved, what is their current living situation?
And again, this is one of those fields that I know many of us may not know what the outcome is, where the clients have moved off to. Some of them, for instance, we know they can't keep the house. They're going to lose it to foreclosure. You've advised them accordingly. Stay in it as long as you can and save your money. And frankly, you're probably not associating yourself with that client for that long of a period of time. So it's okay to leave it blank. But if you happen to know, we're very interested to know what happened.
Exactly. And then last but not least, the date of case closure. Just keep in mind, if a client returns for services after their case has been already closed, you must use the same client ID and update their information using a new service date. Simply delete the close date and enter the data that relates to the new services provided. Our system will recognize that this is a new client event.
Delete the close date and the old intake date, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Correct.
Michelle, do you want to unmute people and we'll see if we have any questions?
Sure. Give me a second here.
Okay. Typed anything in?
We're just that good. Okay. Okay, people should be able to freely speak if they need to or if they have questions, so right ahead.
Hi, this is Derek Tarson from the Legal Aid Society of Rockland County. Just a question on the data point D16. The increased unexpected medical expenses or issues is, I've forgotten what the old one was, but I think it was, I'm just looking it up right now.
It was just, I believe, yeah, it just was missing.
Oh, it was increase in unexpected medical expenses. So is the word issues added because sometimes people are not able to work and earn income while they have a medical issue?
Yes, I think that this is meant to address both. I want to double check that I'm speaking correctly. Sorry, this is Becky. That this is meant to address both medical expenses, so other expenses, right? There's sometimes you just have increased costs that are not necessarily captured in some of these other values. So from my perspective, I looked at it as sort of the catch-all. When nothing else really fits, if you have increased or unexpected issues, that's more what I'm throwing it into. So I know we have people, you know, well, that's not one, but you have a funeral, maybe not a death in your family, but you have somebody that you have to cover the cost, you have increased costs for something else. Yeah, sometimes it fits in death and family, but sometimes it's a little bit different, right? That might be, that's one that I would probably include as increased or unexpected expenses or issues.
I think it was just added. It gives people more flexibility, so just use your best judgment. If it fits for you, then select it.
Exactly. We're not going to hound you on those reasons.
All right. I had one other question. On D23, you've now added Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, but you still have GSE. So which should we use?
If you know it's Freddie, or if you know it's a Freddie loan, or you know it's a Fannie loan, then you fill it in, and you can be as specific as you can.
Okay, and GSE is if you don't know whether it's Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae?
But you know.
But it is one of the two.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Other questions?
Hi, this is Beth Wicke from Nassau Suffolk Law Services. With regard to the Sandy-related cases, do you want us to just include them as part of the overall report, or should we make up a separate spreadsheet for them?
Just include them as part of your overall report.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, this is Wendy from Legal Aid in Albany, and the servicing violations are the big five, nobody else? That's who you want those reported on?
Correct. Yes, that's based on the NMS.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay. This is Derek Tarson again. I guess I just have one more question. There are some about the acronyms. There are some times where there are acronyms that really are commonly used. For instance, like here I'm just looking at one, JPMC Specialty Mortgage, which is a part of Chase. Let's see if there's another one that I that kind of
B of A.
RBS citizens. In those cases, I take it would be all right. Is that correct?
If it's part of their legal name, then yeah, I think that's okay. But if it's an acronym that you're shortening, just to make it a shorter word, then we'd rather you spell it out. But if they use it in a public context, then that's fine.
Right.
Okay.
So I think like RBS citizens, that's a great example of you would use the acronym. B of A, we want you to spell out Bank of America.
Right.
Okay. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Sure. Please, folks, don't be shy. This is the time to ask all of your questions or concerns, address them.
All right, hi, this is Phil Barton down in Elmira. I've been listening to this and looking at the tabs on our time system where I've been filling in this stuff. You've got a lot of additional information that's not showing up on the tabs right now. Is the time system going to be modified so this information there's a place to put this in? How does it work?
Tom has been working with us on modifying time to accommodate the needs for the data reports.
All right, and that's going to happen
very
as soon as practicable? Okay, okay.
Oh, apparently, Alex said he already did.
Yep, I spoke with him a couple weeks ago. Everything is, the time system is, from my understanding, updated and includes all the new values and things like that.
If it's not, talk to your IT person. I think the way it works is that your local IT person has to run the updates in time.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and then if they're not, they can probably call Tom directly.
Okay, okay.
If you're still having issues, you're welcome to contact your regional coordinator. For all of these, if you have questions, substantive data related between Alex and your regional coordinator, we're happy to field those questions and get them answered as quickly as possible.
We did have a question this morning during the housing counseling webinar. It was a great question about how you were going to transfer your data from your old spreadsheet to the new spreadsheet, because there are different values and different fields. Alex is putting together a step-by-step visual instruction sheet that will show you how to do it so you don't lose any of the information from your previous two reports. And we'll be sending that out and putting in the online portal probably early next week.
Yep.
We will, early next week. Anything else before we sign off? Okay. Just want to thank you. I know this is a lot. We know since we've been grantees and we are grantees that this is a lot of data to collect, and we appreciate your flexibility, your understanding, and your patience with us, being new as an anchor partner with the AG. You know, new programs are always a little clunky in the beginning, and we're doing our best to make things as easy as possible. Grantees, and if there's anything that, any suggestions or any questions that you have, like Becky said, you can call Alex, you can call me, you can contact your regional coordinators. We're, always open to hearing any suggestions or answering any questions that you have. So that's all we had. So if there's no other questions, thank you. And
thank you.
Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.